Hey, this is Garvin from FTW, and before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to ask for your help. This month, we will officially begin our 5th year as a wrestling podcast. We've lasted longer than a majority of not only wrestling podcasts, but all podcasts. And it's really all thanks to you guys. But as we move into the future, there's one thing that we want to change, and we need your help to accomplish the goals that we've got set. We want to make the podcast self-sufficient by asking you to pledge to our Patreon account for as little as $1 a month. You would be helping us pay for things like hosting and domains, better equipment and software, as well as give us the momentum and motivation to devote even more time and energy to this project. You've already seen some of that come into play, like we've been doing with Fans Talk TNA, or our latest addition to the family, Fans Talk Lucha. We've got a ton of ideas of new content that we'd love to produce, and we know you have them too. But to put those ideas into motion, we need you to pledge. At $1 a month or $12 a year, you'll help secure at least 3 weekly episodes at less than 8 cents a piece. What we're asking for is really tiny in the grand scheme of things. If you want to see this podcast continue and you want to help us continue to grow, please go to fanstalkwrestling.com and click the support us link. That'll take you to our Patreon page, which lists all of our milestones, a bit more on why we're asking for your financial support, and access to exclusive patron-only content. Can't pledge yourself, but you know some friends that may want to? Share the link, fanstalkwrestling.com, click the support us link. Now, it's time for FTW252.
Beard!
This is Fans Talk Wrestling, a weekly conversation where fans talk the wrestling world in all of its laughable glory. This is episode 252 and was recorded live on February 3rd, 2015 on FTWLive.com. My name is Garvin. With us tonight is Nick. Say hello, Nick.
Hola.
If you're listening live, say hi and leave your thoughts in the comments here on FTWLive.com. If you're listening on demand, reach out to us and let us know what you thought. Check out fanstalkwrestling.com for full show notes and how to get involved in the future. Tonight, we're going to be previewing TNA's Lockdown, which is upcoming this Friday. We're also going to be previewing a little bit of NXT Takeover. Full preview is next week, but there's a lot of stuff happening in NXT that we want to talk about as well. And then also, just everything that's happening since the Royal Rumble in WWE and their build to Fastlane. Quick shout-outs before we begin to Nick Pattern, Adam McClain, and David Gilbert. They went to fanstalkwrestling.com, clicked the support us link, and pledged to support the show this week. Which means starting this week, we'll be releasing FTW Fallout exclusively through Patreon. It also means, collectively, at $15 a month, we are one step closer to keeping Fans Talk Lucha in your feeds and the podcast to bring self-sufficient. Also, shout-outs to SBTW Anime Review, Blood Rain 75, and Cinemadisla on Twitter for leaving likes on our videos this week on YouTube. Much appreciated. And to @Ryan Davis Cow for reaching out to us on Twitter. It's a first-time listener and really liked our conversation last week. So hopefully that's a trend. That's a trend that we can continue.
Cinemod, please leave a comment as to how to pronounce your name.
Cinemadisla. I think that's what it is. I think that's closer.
That'll work.
Yeah, I need to read these out loud before we start recording. Okay. Let's go into the mailbag. Jason Wegner on YouTube said, not a fan of this Fear the Beard intro.
That's because he fears the beard too much.
Yeah, I mean, Fear the Beard intro, I think, is a pretty good representation of the podcast. It's been a conversation for a while that we were gonna get a new theme song. You know, the theme song that we had for like the first 4 years really didn't apply after year 2 or 3 because like we changed who was on the show and it listed by name who was on the show. So So we had to change it. We went through a couple different options during Christmas break, but what made the most sense was just choosing a song that kind of represented us a little bit, but also something we were familiar with. And Nick, you're not necessarily familiar with that song, but it's made by the band called Pancakes, which is out of the Livonia/Detroit area in Michigan. Friends of Joe and myself. So yeah, I think overall, I think it fits. And we're also using another one of their songs in the background, Call and Response. That's the background music for our shows. But yeah, deal with it, Jason Wagoner. That's what it's going to be for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Deuce on YouTube sent in some comments on our YouTube channel, of course, and basically was not happy, or at least not. He wasn't agreeing with our positive thoughts on the Royal Rumble and the Reigns situation. He said, "Y'all are good at missing the point like so many others have. Roman Reigns is just a small part of the equation, but not the crux of it. Daniel Bryan not winning wasn't even the issue, although it's closer to the point. It's the way a dominant Bray Wyatt was just dumped out to end his run by, quote unquote, the Authority. It's how short of a time Bryan was booked in the Rumble, looking like the beginning of a downhill slide, even though it doesn't end up that way. And it's also the same way with Ziggler and everyone else. So it was a slap in the face, poke in the eye, kind of a FU to the fans who pay the bill. So overall, Nick, do you agree with that side of the table?
No, and here's why. Substitute any other wrestler in Daniel Bryan's position and ask yourself if they'd been eliminated the same way Daniel Bryan was, if the negative reaction would be as strong as it was. Even if you swapped out Reigns and Daniel Bryan, if Daniel Bryan won but Reigns lost, would the response have been that strong? If it had been Ziggler, would it have been that strong? I don't think so. I mean, Daniel Bryan is absolutely at the crux of it.
Yeah, man, overall, I just don't get the super negative opinion of Roman Reigns and how they've built the story overall surrounding Royal Rumble. So obviously that's like a really a strong conversation that has been taking place for the last 2 weeks at least since Royal Rumble. But overall, I think I was listening to it was a Sam Roberts wrestling podcast, and he had a guest on, female wrestling fan. I can't remember what her name was, but she's like a part of like the media group that he's involved in. But she was saying basically the same thing. Like, if you look at the entire Shield story, like we all loved every single member of the Shield, including Roman Reigns. When they split up, we still liked everyone. It seemed like basically it was Roman Reigns got hurt. He got hurt and, was out for that month and a half with the hernia issue. And then ever since that, everyone has hated on him, and it makes no sense. It's like, we see, oh, well, this is WWE's decision, so we can't like it, even though this was okay for us, previously,
Yeah.
If it's our decision, it's cool. But if it's their decision, well, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, that's just an enormously hipster thing to do. Like, if you don't like Reigns because you don't think he talks well, or if you don't think he's that great of a wrestler, I mean, that's just your opinion, man. And it's totally fine. It's just hating him because he's not Daniel Bryan, or because he was picked to win over Daniel Bryan. It's at least as ridiculous as despising Mysterio for coming out instead of Daniel Bryan. It's not his fault.
Well, that was a pretty terrible decision by Rey Mysterio. He should have refused.
Yeah.
He should have said, no, this is Daniel Bryan's spot. I don't want to even be involved in this.
He was the Eric Rowan to Daniel Bryan's Curtis Axel.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, there's obviously different sides to the story as far as opinions go. But overall, we choose not to be so negative on it and look for the positives, just based on what wrestling is to us. Wrestling is a form of entertainment that we enjoy to watch. And if it wasn't enjoyable to watch, we wouldn't. we wouldn't watch it anymore because that doesn't make sense. So, Steve Espinoza on YouTube says, I can't tell you how many people in the forums thought Bryan versus Lesnar wouldn't be believable back when Brock won the title last year. Now they're mad because Bryan isn't facing Lesnar at Mania. Yeah, this is pretty legit. I think overall, it's just the wishy-washy, insincere, and inconsistent viewpoint of the loudest members of the IWC. And this was kind of touched on in the Triple H interview with Steve Austin. But yeah, overall, it's like, we obviously want Bryan to do well. We wanted to see Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, but I don't think there was many of us that believed with how they were building Lesnar that Bryan stood any chance. So this want to have Bryan in that spot just because he's quote unquote our guy and not WWE's guy is weird. It's just a weird sentiment.
Definitely.
Okay. All right, well, let's go into WWE. First of all, I do have to give props to Triple H this week because of a wonderful analogy that he and Stephanie McMahon came up with at the top of the show. At the top of Raw, that is. And that was basically, talking up how awesome, the Super Bowl was and how their team, the Patriots, won and how that was amazing. But, obviously not everyone agrees. So, that's why, he wasn't surprised to see the cancel NFL Network hashtag trend. I don't know. I thought it was a perfect analogy.
Yeah, it works.
It wasn't the winner that we all wanted. So we're going to cancel the network.
Reigns didn't cheat to win or cheat to get to where he was, but.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's
Nobody
totally
went into that game clean.
It's totally apples and oranges, but perfect in every way. So overall, there's a lot of stuff going on in WWE. How do you like so far their build for Fastlane? And I guess let's take a step back and look at something specific. Basically, how they're seemingly muddying the waters of who is actually going to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. This week on Raw, we saw Roman Reigns basically give up his shot to face Brock Lesnar to fight instead the winner of Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins at Fastlane to then determine who actually goes on to face Brock Lesnar. What do you think about this? Do you think, does this story make sense to you?
I think it does. I like it personally because to Reigns, it's not him giving it up. It's just him proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is the guy to move forward and face Lesnar. Personally, I don't think he is that guy. I think the WWE, like they did last year, is recognizing where the crowd is going, and they're at least offering up the hope that they're going to adjust things and put Daniel Bryan in there. So I guess even if they move forward with the original plan and put Reigns in the main event, at least Daniel Bryan had a clearer shot at getting there. And it would, if he doesn't get there, that'd be a more definitive way to put that hope to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, I think the storyline makes sense. I like that Seth Rollins is laying claim to a title shot. I like that Daniel Bryan is laying claim to a title shot. So it seems like they're considering, backing down from pushing Roman as hard, but definitely putting Roman against all of these trials and tribulations, especially versus a Daniel Bryan and him winning. I think that tells a better story because it's he's going up against, he's going up against the IWC's quote unquote guy and defeating him or, losing. I don't know who, I guess we'll find out, but, overall it does tell a nice story that, Roman is going against the grain and he's going to, prove that he belongs there when a lot of us don't believe that, he should be there. But it does open up like a lot of different things. We talked a bit about this last week, but Curtis Axel also laid claim to a title shot. You've got the rumored return of Randy Orton. So that's Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Curtis Axel, Randy Orton. It's 5. Throw in a 6th guy, and I'm serious. Elimination Chamber, right? I mean, that they could go that route.
I don't know. I mean, they've got the main event settled at Fastlane. I personally doubt they change it. And
why? They just changed Roman Reigns' ability to use his title shot that he earned at the Royal Rumble.
Right, but that was a natural progression, I think. And it was straight out of the Royal Rumble. Now that they've got things more or less finalized for Fastlane, I don't necessarily see them changing that, especially by inserting multiple opponents for Reigns. Now, I would be entirely okay with Reigns entertaining multiple challenges to his title shot on the way to WrestleMania after Fastlane.
Right.
Like, if Orton comes in and challenges for a title shot and Reigns takes him down, that just legitimizes him more. Same with any of the other guys, even with Curtis Axel, which I think he's going to be fighting with Ambrose over the IC title, but
I don't know, just the idea of Curtis Axel in your WrestleMania main event because of how he got screwed out of the Royal Rumble match. I think that it'd be funny. Not believable, but funny for sure.
Well, he is better than perfect.
Agreed. So let's move on from that and talk a little tag teams. Ascension picked up a win over Gold and Stardust. After the match, Gold and Stardust, they argued backstage. Obviously, Stardust doesn't want to ever be called Cody again. And then Cesaro and Tyson Kidd picked up a win over the Usos. Do you finally see this as a dawn of a good tag team division?
It's certainly very promising. I don't want to definitively say we're there yet, just because we have had that specter of hope dangled in front of us before. But yeah, it's definitely very solid tag team action, and that doesn't even involve who else is in there, like the New Day, that still has a legitimate beef with Team Cat or the Brass Touring Club or whatever you want to call them.
I think you meant a New Day.
New Day? Yeah. And if events in NXT are playing out as I think they are, we could very well see the Lucha Dragons step up to the main roster as well and be the opposition that the Ascension needs after taking out some of the more established tag teams like the New Age Outlaws or your Goldust and Stardust. So yeah, it's absolutely looking very promising.
Yeah, overall, I'm liking what we're seeing right now. You know, the idea of Ascension finally picking up steam and finally showing some of that energy that they had during their NXT run on top. I'm definitely enjoying that idea. Gold and Stardust, I think that they've ran their course. So if they end up splitting up, it's no big deal. I think again, I think we've talked about this the last 2 WrestleManias, but a Goldust versus Stardust match or a Goldust versus Cody Rhodes match, I think would be pretty cool to see at WrestleMania. And who knows, maybe that's what they're going to be leading to.
If they fight, I would not be the least bit surprised to see Stardust versus Dustin Rhodes, just so that he can try and snap Cody out of it.
Oh, that's a good theory. Let me add that to the card. Yeah, I definitely like that. But seeing Tyson Kidd and Cesaro pick up a win over the champs, I think was fantastic. It definitely
Agreed.
adds a lot of credibility to them. So, speaking of tag teams, even though they're really not a tag team, like Miz and Mizdow are continuing to tease that split. This week, Miz fired Mizdow from being a stunt double because he was too good at it, I guess. But then rehired him like instantly to be his personal assistant. So they really didn't like make any movement in one direction or another. But they're definitely showing that Miz is fed up with the fact that Mizdow is getting all the attention and all the face pops from the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's going to end up being a WrestleMania match, or do you think that they might move that quicker? Like maybe at Fastlane, it's the two of them.
I don't necessarily see it as a Mania match, except maybe in the kickoff. Fastlane seems more likely. Given the way they've slow burned this breakup, the way they've just kept constantly teasing it, the time frame does seem like it could be a Mania match. But I mean, it's just not big enough, I don't think.
Well, not every match has to be like huge to be a WrestleMania.
True. Yeah, the only way I could see it making it to Mania is if it took the spot of that mixed tag match, the 8-person tag match that got bumped.
Yeah.
I think if they had time for another match, I think maybe they would use that, but
I don't know. I gotta say that to me it feels like a perfect opportunity. WrestleMania, that's your biggest show of the year. Overall, this feud is about who the fans like more. You know, who's the bigger star, and what better place to test that theory out than WrestleMania.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. It's just, I don't see them giving that to The Miz. Just because, for whatever reason, people backstage just don't seem to like him.
I can't qualify that claim. I don't know. It's so hard to tell. He's on TV every week. He's winning matches every week. Well, not every week.
He keeps getting the movies.
Yeah. So this rumor that, you know, people don't like Miz, I don't know if it's totally accurate because of how much he's being used. If you don't like a guy, you don't use him. Zack Ryder. They can't like Zack Ryder. No one there likes Zack Ryder.
I think it's more because Zack Ryder got himself over in spite of them. Like Miz, he's done everything they've said. It's just, I don't know if they just can't separate his character from him, or because there have been instances where it was pretty much official that he was in the doghouse. At least as official as the rumors about Samoa Joe storming into production trucks and stuff. So,
well, going from main events and holding the top title to like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on from Miz and Mizdow. What else happened this week? Oh, Eric Rowan. Eric Rowan had a backstage segment where he was talking with John Cena and actually talked intelligently and not pushing some ridiculous character. Do you think maybe someone saw the light at the end of the tunnel and really see something positive for Eric Rowan in 2015?
I sincerely hope so, because I loved that segment. It was one of the few segments that Cena does where he's not playing his shtick, or at least not to the hilt. And it was a serious segment. It was a quiet, thoughtful segment. And like you said, Rowan was very articulate, very intelligent, like the character they've started pushing with him, where he's secretly a genius.
Right.
And I don't necessarily know that he'll escape like the sheep mask entirely, but I do see good things for him. And that really makes me happy, because I wasn't expecting this for Rowan. I was more expecting him to fall by the wayside as soon as the Wyatt family came to an end. But like the ring ability that he's shown since that breakup, just the way his character keeps building, I've really been impressed by him.
Yeah, overall, I do like Eric Rowan. It seems, I don't know, like unpredictable how they've moved forward with Eric, because, you know, we looked at who was going to be the bigger star. Luke Harper obviously was the guy that we backed, but he's still playing like the same character. He hasn't really evolved at all since leaving the Wyatt family. He did hold the IC title, but it was so brief, so minuscule that it almost didn't really mean anything. Eric Rowan, on the other hand, is getting like a chance to speak, which is surprising. But, you know, there are some inconsistencies still with his character, and it's being brought up in the live chat from the Shoot Wrestling podcast. He says, how can WWE push Rowan as this lovable guy who hates bullying, specifically from like the Authority and whatnot, yet he's the same guy that just attacked Axel from behind, screwed Axel out of the Royal Rumble match, just to get him in. So yeah, again, there are some inconsistencies there as far as a character goes, but the motivation to enter the Rumble, I think, is worth everything here.
Even that, I don't think that was a point. Like, Axel was he was in the way. He wanted to get at Wyatt and Harper, because those are the only two guys left in the ring. So he wanted them. I think that's what keeps him from having made that heel move.
Yeah. At the same time, I mean, just going back to what he said to Cena, like, about always feeling like left out or feeling like he didn't matter. It was almost like he went into the ring at Royal Rumble to show that, that he is important, that he has something to offer. So, again, we're in this spot where we're like filling in holes, trying to make sense out of everything.
Sure.
But with that thought in mind, it still kind of makes sense. And yeah, Curtis Axel did get the wrong side of the stick on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Some other matches that took place, Big Show over Reigns, Ryback over Harper, Page over Fox, Rusev, versus Rowan never actually started. But overall, it seems like WWE's finally in a good groove where they're, like, nothing is necessarily feeling filler. It feels like it's going somewhere. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, that does seem about right. Yeah, not all of these are particularly feuds that are moving forward, but they are building up to something. Like, Big Show is a tool of the Authority, getting in the way of Reigns. Harper's essentially the same way with Ryback. And I guess you could kind of say the same about with Rusev and Rowan. You could kind of say the same either way, because Rowan is kind of in the way of Rusev versus Cena, but right. Rusev is kind of in the way of Rowan, and whatever residual sentiment is held against him by the Authority.
Sure.
And then there's Fox getting in Paige's way with Nikki Bella. So, yeah, I definitely like the pattern here where the feuds are still being advanced.
Yeah, and I think Curtis Axel is the only one that's kind of out of place, just because we don't know necessarily where they're going with that.
I think he'll be trying to interfere with Ambrose going after Barrett.
Well, moving forward, that does make sense. I mean, and we saw the early signs of that, but I would almost, I mean, I hope that's not where it's going to end. That's not where this story is going to end, that they're going to actually try to push Curtis Axel into that, into a guy that could maybe credibly be a part of, that top title race. But he is a former Intercontinental Champion, so it does kind of make sense that he would be pushing that in that route as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. All right. Did you listen to the Stone Cold podcast?
Yeah, I caught up on that today.
So, to me, some interesting notes. Overall, I wouldn't say it was entertaining at all. I think entertaining is the wrong term. Definitely interesting. If we were to compare this versus the Vince McMahon interview, this one felt a little bit more real and a little bit more thought through. Triple H was definitely prepared for some of these questions, not necessarily implying that, he was fed question, but just in general, he's been thinking about this kind of stuff. He's on the top of his game as far as these questions. Vince McMahon wasn't necessarily, but yeah, overall, just some notes that I had. First of all, real quick correction. I guess the quote unquote reality era is a thing. I've heard that term used by like the IWC. I've heard that term kind of thrown around, but never like in an official capacity. But Triple H name dropped it. I thought that was really, really odd.
Yeah, I don't think the WWE considers the reality era in the same way that the IWC does.
Yeah.
Like, they mark the beginning of the reality era as when Punk dropped his first pipe bomb. And it's obvious that WWE doesn't match up with that at all. But just the way they've kind of pulled back the curtain in some ways with Total Divas, with these sorts of podcasts, with their own various initiatives on the network or on their website, yeah, it makes sense that they would deem this the reality era when the line is so obviously blurred.
Yeah, I would like to get a look at their timeline and when the reality started, because really, you probably have to go back like 5 or 6 years to when it started. As far as Triple H's definition, according to Triple H, he attributed it to the fact that a lot of viewers now know what's going on. As far as they can get their hands on spoilers, there are lots of different rumors that end up being true because of maybe insider information. So people kind of know, what's going to happen, why it's happening. They also know that this is like a business and how the business is run and everything. So yeah, to him, it's more along that, it's the viewers know what's happening, that like the reality of this business versus, not because real life is telling the story, but because, it's so easy to find out what's really happening.
Yeah. And there are so many ways you can mark like the beginning of it. You can make a case for when the WWE was put in front of Congress and they revealed it's totally not real, you guys. This is sports entertainment. There are a few different points like that you could point to.
Also, it was also interesting to note that Triple H was so open about his involvement in NXT and basically saying like NXT was his proving ground, that he was testing a bunch of different things, to see how they really played out. And, that he knows that NXT's target is young males based on, the data that they have through the WWE network. So, they're definitely molding the show for that type of audience. And it's also something he would want to watch. So it's nice to hear that that they are focusing on a specific, group, that they know what that group is and they know what that group wants. So it's nice to see that they're using NXT to really, do the right things, do everything that we've wanted to do. And hopefully that does translate, in a couple years to the main product, but to see it working so well in NXT is really cool.
See, I thought that was kind of disingenuous of him.
Really?
Because it's obvious that NXT isn't directly marketed towards who you would think would make up the typical IWC, like the 18 to 35 male demographic. Just look at the crowd and it's at least split 50-50 men and women. And there are so many kids, like both in the crowd talking about it or being shown talking about it on Twitter, Facebook. Like I've seen a ton of videos shared by various wrestlers about how the kids are just going nuts over when their favorite wrestler comes out, like Sasha Banks or Sami Zayn or who have you. And I thought I was a little disappointed that he didn't give Dusty his due. Like it's obvious that while Triple H, NXT is his baby, but he's handed it off to Dusty Rhodes almost entirely. Like Triple H is just in an overseer's role. Like Vince is with the main roster, Triple H is with NXT, but Dusty is the day-to-day guy.
Well, sure. I mean, he's not writing everything, but, I think it's just a matter of being in a position in charge like a Vince McMahon and saying, this is okay. What you guys are coming up with is okay. Here's maybe what I would want to watch, and just allowing the program to grow organically. Like, yeah, he's not giving props to everyone, but when has anyone given props to anyone? Vince McMahon, I don't think Vince McMahon said, "Oh, well, it was these writers that helped me out."
No, but I mean, you can't exactly say that with like Raw, that without this one particular person, there'd be no Raw. With NXT, you can absolutely say if there was no Dusty, there would be no NXT as we know it.
Sure. I can definitely see it. And overall, I lost my train of thought. Let's move on. The intention originally was to keep NXT as a development territory, but I think it's obvious to them now, and this is what Triple H said as well. It's obvious to them that this has become like its own thing, its own brand. And this goes back to some conversations we've had in weeks past about the idea, like, should they make it a third brand? But really, it feels like it already is. It's completely different. Yeah, it's development. They're still developing everything, and that's wrestlers, managers, you name it. Everything is being tested down there and developed down there before it comes up. So, yeah, like while this is its own thing and it's succeeding and people like being there, the main goal will always be to be on Raw or to be on the main stage. So do you think that's more accurate as, along the lines of what you want to see NXT being as far as the development territory goes? Or do you think that they should consider, really defining NXT as its own brand?
I don't think it should progress any farther than it has towards being its own brand. It's obvious that NXT has become its own thing, but I've said this before. People need to remember that it is developmental. I used to have this problem a lot with hockey, with my hometown minor league hockey team. I used to get so upset when the parent team would make a call up and then they'd screw up the call up and the guy that got called up didn't even do anything for being sent back down. I used to get so upset about that until I figured out this is a farm team, essentially. Like, yeah, I want my team to win as often as possible, but
right.
They're being developed for a bigger league, for a bigger team. So that's something that you've always got to keep in mind whenever you're dealing with a developmental system. You want that system to succeed. You want the individual players, or the wrestlers in this case, to be as dominant as humanly possible, but you've also got to remember they're being built up for something bigger.
Yeah. And this is being said in the live chat by Blue. He says, and I echo this completely. He says, what NXT is now is working. No need to change anything. And I agree with that. Like, I don't care what they call it, if it's its own brand or if it's development. As long as they don't change how they're doing this show, just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to be amazing, and we're going to continue to enjoy it.
Yep.
Speaking of changes, though, one change that he would make that I think we can all agree with is that Raw would go back to 2 hours.
Yeah.
I was very pleased to hear him say that. And then also, we keep getting the same kind of conversations about Hall of Fame. China, would China be available to go into, or eligible to go into the Hall of Fame? Chris Benoit obviously was not named specifically, but implied. It's the reason why, according to Triple H, and this can be debated all day long, but according to Triple H, the reason why China and others are not in the Hall of Fame is because of the internet. China was involved in porn and involved in a lot of bad things. Same thing could be said with Chris Benoit because of the whole murder stuff. So if you do a Google search for that to learn about these people, you're going to come up with those results. I think that's a good reason not to.
For Benoit, obviously. With China, I thought that was an interesting argument considering who is in the Hall of Fame. Like, Mike Tyson is a convicted rapist. People that are strongly rumored to be going in the Hall of Fame, like Michael Hayes, he is an established racist. So, porn, it depends on your morality and how you view that, but ultimately it doesn't hurt anybody. So,
yeah, I don't mean to put China and Chris Benoit in the same category.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I agree with you. Now that you said that about Mike Tyson, that does tie into some of the arguments against this reasoning about China. Like X-Pac, who was also involved in the same movies as China, will most likely get inducted at some point.
Was he not inducted as part of DX?
Was he inducted as part of DX? I thought DX was just... Let's look that up. Someone look that up in the live chat and let us know. Was X-Pac a part of the DX Hall of Fame induction? For some reason, I don't think that they were. Oh, no, wait. DX wasn't inducted, were they? Yeah, that was just rumored. They aren't in yet.
Oh.
DX inducted Mike Tyson.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I pulled up a search, and I've got a why D-Generation X doesn't belong in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That was a story of 2013 on fanstalkwrestling.com. How about that? Okay. So anyways, it can be debated all day. But yeah, if certain people are getting in who did things just at the same level, depending on your morality, then yeah, I think China deserves to be in there just because of what she did as a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So Fastlane is going to take place on February 22nd. We'll be previewing it in full on FTW254. Right now, what we got as far as a card: Paige versus Nikki for the Divas Championship, Dean Ambrose versus Wade Barrett for the IC Championship, John Cena versus Rusev for the US Championship. Triple H is going to confront Sting, and then in the main event, most likely, is going to be Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. The winner will go to WrestleMania 31 for a WWE Championship shot. And then this goes, they will face Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. This question comes from Benjamin Megenberg when it comes to the John Cena versus Rusev match. He said, do you think John Cena will have a long reign as U.S. champion if he wins? And would it be smart to have him in a mid-card role at all? What do you think, Nick?
I think it absolutely makes sense. I've been of the opinion for a while that if guys like Mark Henry aren't going to be the ones to topple Rusev, if you're going for somebody that fits the American hero mold, John Cena is the only guy that's left. And really, he's in the WWE, he's the ultimate guy to fit that mold. So now that Rusev is holding the U.S. title, having Cena in that picture makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And personally, I like the idea of him being relegated to the mid-card. Not just for petty personal reasons, because having him out at the top of the picture makes room for guys like Rollins, Reigns, Daniel Bryan. It gives them room to still have Cena around to beef up merch sales and all that stuff, but also to try and build the new stars they've been needing for years. So this is a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm not against this. If Cena is the one to take the title off of Rusev, I think it's fine. I think it has to happen at WrestleMania, though. I think Fastlane has to be Rusev winning, or, some kind of count out, or just something to extend this another month. Because if they do this at Fastlane, they take the title before, they take the title off of Rusev before WrestleMania. I think that'll do a giant disservice both to the title and to Rusev and what Rusev has been able to do with the title. The one thing I do like about what Rusev has done and how they've built this story is that the U.S. Championship is a major portion of that story they're telling. So, I do want to see that continued. I do want to see that highlighted at WrestleMania, and I'd rather, let me take a step back because, I don't know if I would want John Cena to defeat Rusev at WrestleMania. I'd rather Rusev get that moment.
Yeah, because what you said about Cena beating Rusev at Mania, that made sense to me. But yeah, I don't really consider the argument of Cena burying mid-card talent to apply here, because Rusev has been so dominant against everybody else. So who else but Cena can take him on? It is a tricky situation. I think if Cena is going over,
yeah,
Rusev has to look incredibly strong to make up for that during the match.
Which is hard. That's hard to do when LOL Cena wins.
Yeah.
By the way, Diva Jill is saying that I am un-American. It's not that I'm un-American. I like Rusev, man. I like Rusev. I think he's a quality wrestler. Definitely one of the most entertaining guys in the ring. Storyline wise, I can get why you want Cena to win at WrestleMania, but the IWC guy in me doesn't want that to happen. I want Rusev to get his moment in the spotlight and, be put on top. But most likely, if this goes to WrestleMania, Cena wins.
Would you say making the final confrontation a 2 out of 3 falls match? Would you say that mitigates some of those concerns?
I would like that rather than a submission match. Unless the submission match is with Rusev passing out. I know that's like overdone at this point, but I think he would escape. Rusev would escape still looking strong, but that's been used against him with like Swagger. I think Swagger did that once. So I don't know.
And Rusev passing out to the STF of all holds, that would be kind of lame.
But at the same time, like no one has really pinned. Actually, not really. I mean, overall, no one has pinned Rusev. He's lost matches through countout or the Royal Rumble or stuff like that, but he's not been pinned. So to have Cena pin him twice in one night, I don't know if that would mitigate it at all. I think that would stick a dagger in it almost.
Yeah, I would want Cena to learn another submission before.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll have another week or so to talk about that. Again, we're going to be previewing Fastlane on FTW254. WrestleMania 31 is going to take place on March 29th. We'll be previewing it on FTW259. The assumed match right now, or the assumed card right now, we've got Sting versus Triple H. Another assumed match based on our conversation earlier tonight was Miz versus Mizdow. Then there's the rumored Dolph versus Daniel Bryan match that they've been trying to build on Twitter. Not sure if that'll end up being anything. Also Dustin Rhodes versus Stardust. I do like that story that you brought up, Nick. There's also Bray versus Undertaker that's being brought up a lot. Especially with this week's promo by Bray Wyatt. It seemed kind of almost obvious that that's who he's talking to. Mm-hmm. You know, anytime you talk cryptically about someone or to someone, it's usually Undertaker.
Especially when you say you fear nothing living or dead.
Yeah. And then Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar if Daniel Bryan doesn't beat Roman Reigns, which most likely he won't. So yeah, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. But let's move on to TNA. TNA has Lockdown this week. Here's the card right now. We've got Rockstar Spud and Mandrews versus Tyrus. Havoc versus Awesome Kong. The Hardys versus Storm and Abyss for the Tag Team Championships. Rude versus EY. And Team Angle versus Team BDC. This is, again, Lockdown. So everything is going to be inside of the 6 sides of steel. Nick, let's start from the bottom of the card. We've got Rockstar Spud and Mandrews versus Tyrus. Your thoughts on this match, how they've built it up, and your overall predictions.
I've liked how things have been built with Spud getting ground into the dirt to kick things off, and then Spud slowly building momentum to finally get that match with EC3. Excuse me. I've really enjoyed how Spud has grown both as a character and as a wrestler in TNA. And the momentum he's got right now makes me think that even despite the size advantage that Tyrus has over both him and Mandrews, I can't see Spud getting derailed at this stage. Not in a match that it's a handicap match. He's got the numbers advantage, right. And I fully expect Spud and Mandrews to come out on top here.
Yeah, I can't see any other situation for this, just because of the way they've built Tyrus thus far, which is a big loser. You know, overall, he's lost every match he's been in. He's definitely the bodyguard type for EC3, but when it comes to matches themselves, he always falls short, which is really odd. It's a really odd way to book him. But during segments, he looks really strong. Like we've seen him carry Rockstar Spud with one hand, by his belt buckle. So overall, yeah, I think overall, Rockstar Spud, Mandrews, they walk out with the win. Lots of shooting star presses and all that fancy stuff. It's going to be great to see Rockstar Spud compete again. This week, seeing him wrestle was great. I can't wait for more of that. And I think this partnership, Rockstar Spud and Mandrews as a tag team, I really can see a lot of cool things out of this. And I hope they do move this away from the EC3 feud in the next coming weeks to then move on to the tag team championship. I think it'd be really cool. So yeah, we're both going to go with Rockstar Spud and Mandrews. Let's go on to Havoc versus Awesome Kong. What do you think about this match?
With the way that Kong has come out looking strong in every one of their confrontations, and Havoc always looking like she doesn't have a plan yet, that she's getting foiled each and every time, there's got to be something that makes it look like Havoc can handle Kong. So I think in this initial match, while I don't believe there'll be a clean finish, I think Havoc will pull the win out.
Yeah, I like Havoc, generally speaking. I think booking-wise, it hasn't been done properly, but overall, Havoc the wrestler, Havoc the character, I dig. But I can't see you bringing in Awesome Kong and her first match is a loss. I just can't see that. And that's not to suggest that, she would win cleanly or she would totally destroy Havoc, but I think in this particular scenario, Awesome Kong winning and defeating Havoc in her first match back, I think that tells a better story than Awesome Kong losing and not looking as big of a monster as she did throughout this entire build. So, because you can do quite a few things if Havoc loses. With Havoc losing, there's the opportunity to take her off of TV so that Awesome Kong then takes on Gail Kim or Taryn Terrell or Madison Rayne and really starts those feuds back up and then bring back Havoc. I think there's an opportunity there for some cool stuff. But, overall, Havoc doesn't necessarily need to win this. The story, the real big story will be when she finally does defeat Awesome Kong. But I think there has to be some more build before that actually happens.
Yeah, if the roles were reversed, I think I would lean that way. But I think you've got to have the face win in the situation. And Kong's been the face thus far.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, so you're going with Havoc. I'm going with Awesome Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Tag team championships on the line. Storm and Abyss defend against the Hardys. Is there any chance the Hardys win?
None.
Yep.
I don't see a scenario where this happens. Their placeholder seems almost insulting to a team with the resume that the Hardys have, but that's essentially the role they're filling.
Yeah.
I don't think Storm and Abyss are going to lose until they have a serious program with the Wolves again.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like the Hardys in the spot. I don't want to see them win. I don't want to see them hold the titles. So for me, I'm going with Storm and Abyss just because I don't think having the titles on the Hardys really makes sense at this point. Especially because Storm and Abyss just got the titles a little over a month ago. So, maybe closer to 2 months ago, but still, I think the main feud that we're all looking for is the Wolves finally getting back into that spot. Yeah, having the Hardys as like a filler feud is almost insulting, but at the same time, this goes back to, my thoughts on the Knockouts division. Yeah, Havoc versus Gail Kim is a great feud, and I enjoyed those matches, but having that match every single week or every other week can really wear on you as a fan. So having the Wolves kind of back out to really build the credibility of Storm and Abyss, which, a win over the Hardys would do, as we saw with the Wolves, that will build their credibility. So yeah, I think overall this has been good so far, but I think Storm and Abyss have to win over the Hardys to really make them look legit. Yeah, and it's being pointed out in the live chat, the Hardys haven't really looked better than they have since, returning to TNA. Like the last few months of 2014 in that tournament with the Wolves and 3D, they looked fantastic. ever since the start of the year. The Hardys have looked really good as well. So, as long as they keep going that route and pushing the Hardys as well as they have, having Storm and Abyss win will make that that mean so much more. So yeah, with that. Rude versus EY. Rude wants EY's blood. EY wants Rude's blood. You think we're gonna get blood in this match or no?
No, not at all. I mean, this is a cage match. Why would you expect blood?
Well, it's 2015. I mean, blood and wrestling.
I mean, who wants that anymore? Yeah, I absolutely think there will be blood from everyone involved, including the referee, the timekeeper, anybody you want. So, as far as who I think will win, I think Rude will win. It won't be clean though. I expect EY to come out looking stronger in this match. Since it's a cage match, I don't really see like a DQ win happening but I don't know, maybe you could have some kind of shenanigan where Rude gets tied down or something. It's not a last man standing, but something that looks cheaty, something along those lines.
I could see that for sure. Either way though, I mean, whoever walks out as the winner they're obviously going to look strong. It's obviously going to put more, focus on them as far as their, want and their, claim for the world title. But I can't see either walking out like under their own power. I think this is going to hurt them more than this is going to help them. As far as, the physicality of this match, as far as the story they're telling, they both want to hurt each other, and I can't imagine they won't, that they wouldn't go that route. So, I'm going to go with Rude as well. I think Rude winning would mean a lot more, but part of me really does want to see EY have a really great showing so that he stays in that, that top 5. He stays in that top title race. Team Angle versus Team BDC in the Lethal Lockdown. That's our assumed main event for TNA Lockdown. And, right now it's Team Angle versus Team BDC. BDC is going to be represented by MVP, Kenny King, Low Key, and Samoa Joe. Team Angle is going to be Angle, of course, with Austin Aries, Gunner, and a mysterious, or not mysterious, a mystery opponent. Right now it's just question mark. We don't really know who that's going to be. We will find out most likely at the beginning of the show, or, maybe the beginning of the match. Who knows? They offered the spot to Lashley, but Lashley wants nothing to do with this. This fight isn't, this fight is beneath him. His focus is on the title. This match has obviously nothing to do with the title. So he wanted nothing to do with it. So instead of predicting who that final member is going to be, let's just predict who's going to win and who needs this win more.
Yeah, I think Team BDC walks out with the win. I think they can do more with the win. MVP is just number 2 on that power ranking of theirs, which say what you will about the reasons for it, but I personally think MVP's place there is deserved.
Yeah.
So I think that would set him up nicely for a title match with Lashley. And I don't even care right now who would win in that confrontation, because it would be a great match. You'd see involvement from Joe, Kenny King, Low Key. So yeah, it would be a great feud. It has been a great feud.
Right.
And as far as Team Angle goes, I think there's more to be had from a loss than a win, because I would personally be more entertained by Angle feuding with one of the other team members over, say, who's to blame for that loss.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Team Angle, the team that they have are like thrown together. Like Gunner was just like, Angle went into the back and said Gunner is better than what he has been, and kind of like berated him, but then invited him to join the team. I don't know. Looking at the teams as it stands right now, BDC is much better and more deserving of a win. I think a win would make a lot more sense. But because we don't know who that mystery person is, that that kind of makes me lean more towards Angle, Team Angle winning, just because we don't know who that is and what kind of impact it is. But you don't, bring, wrestling wise, you don't bring a surprise person in to help a team and then have that team lose.
Yeah, I could see that.
But overall, I mean, MVP doesn't need this win to continue his feud with Lashley. He doesn't need this win to continue his fight for the title. Samoa Joe, same thing. I mean, you could throw Samoa Joe in that top title race. Low key doesn't necessarily need a win here because he should be focusing on the X Division, the X Division Championship. So this shouldn't necessarily affect him. Angle, though, Angle needs a win to show and to really give credibility for his claim to the title. Like this week, he did say he wanted to focus on the title in the future. So, he does sort of need a win, especially against an MVP and a Samoa Joe or a Low Key to, cement that, and that title shot or him in the title race in the near future. So that's why I'm going to go with Team Angle. I just think, Angle needs a win to really push hard in that division. Blue is reminding me in a live chat that, technically Dixie brought in Bully Ray last year to help her team win, and that went well. LOL. The difference is, well, hopefully, I guess there is really no difference. I mean, the difference here is that, Bully Ray turned face, and that's when he really started his feud with Dixie Carter. So, it made sense there. But
yeah, unless you make the argument that Lashley changes his mind and is that fourth man, there's not anybody left on the roster that I can see that is that big player.
Right.
The biggest name I can think of would be Anderson, and I at least I hope he's not involved in this match.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, unless maybe if you want to throw in somebody that is a threat to Low Key as X Division champion, which
who would that be? I don't know.
The only name I can think of that isn't currently occupied is Tigre Uno.
Right.
I mean, he's not that big of a threat.
I was going to say that as well. I was like, who else is in the division that's not doing something else? And, yeah.
Oh, wait. What if it's King Mo?
I thought about that as well. I didn't really want to get into predictions of who that last man's going to be, but yeah, King Mo is another name that I thought about. Well, no, King Mo, no, you're thinking Rampage Jackson, because King Mo is on Dixie's team. In the grand scheme of things, King Mo was a heel, Rampage Jackson was a face, and
but
was a member of Fortune, or not Fortune, whatever.
Main Event Mafia.
Main Event Mafia, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since that happened, though. And Rampage is gone. So
here's a name thrown out in the live chat. Chris Melendez. To continue his feud with MVP and Kenny King. I hope not. I hope not. But that is possible. Yeah. It kind of makes sense. But yeah. Okay, let's.
I mean, Garrett Bischoff is technically possible. So
no, do not bring up Garrett Bischoff. All right, we talked about this a little bit more in depth, as well as the full TNA conversation in Fans Talk TNA. So definitely check that out. Again, Fans Talk TNA is a weekly show that we release Thursday at midnight over at TNAMecca.com. So it's basically your 20-minute preview of the week's Impact. Yeah, you can get that over at TNAMecca.com, or you can also get the full archive over at FansTalkTNA.com, and it's released on the full podcast feed as well. In case you missed it, the wife and I put our weekly Lucha Underground conversation together. You can get that through the normal podcast feed as well. We're calling it Fans Talk Lucha, and you can grab the full archive for free right now on fanstalklucha.com. We've released 2 episodes so far. Another one's going to be released on Saturday. Fans Talk Lucha episode 3 released on Saturday, and we'll cover this week's edition of Lucha Underground. We record a few days after the show airs, so just to give you guys some time to watch it and get your opinions together before we sit down and talk. Not only is this the first Lucha Underground exclusive podcast out there, One that is on the radar of the higher ups at Lucha Underground, including Chris DeJoseph, as we found out this week on Twitter. But it's also the first new show that is entirely dependent on your support in Patreon. As the milestone reads, if we collectively can raise $50 a month together, we'll continue to produce episodes of Fans Talk Lucha. Unfortunately, our experiment, as it was announced, was only going to be set for 3 weeks. So while we've received some great feedback overall, definitely one of the only shows that gets consistent feedback, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you guys reach us. And it's getting significantly high download numbers. We are about $25 shy as it stands right now. So we're about halfway there of reaching that milestone, meaning this could be the final episode of Fans Talk Lucha. So if you'd like to keep it going, head on over to fanstalklucha.com, click the support us link at the top, and subscribe for as little as $12 a year. $12 a year is about 8 cents an episode of Fans Talk Wrestling, Fans Talk TNA, and Fans Talk Lucha. And speaking of milestone goals, if we collectively can raise $100 a month, we might even be up to release a new conversation called Fans Talk NXT. Also, quick shout out to Diva Jill, who is in the live chat right now and did pledge some money our way in the Patreon account. So, again, fanstalklucha.com or fanstalkwrestling.com. Click the support us link. All the information is there on how to pledge and what the pledges mean and what we're trying to do and, all of our, initial goals. It's a liquid thing. We're always going to be evolving it, as long as you guys are supporting it. But
we heart you, Diva Joe.
Yeah, definitely, Diva Joe. That was fantastic of you. But like I said, another milestone we've got coming up is Fans Talk NXT. So an NXT exclusive conversation. But we're going to talk a little bit about NXT right now. Lots of stuff taking place. I know we're going to preview NXT Takeover next week. NXT Takeover 4 is going to take place on February 11th. We're going to be previewing it in full next week's episode, FTW253. But overall, Nick, so much is going on. We've got the NXT Championship tournament. We're now into round 2, and despite it being confusing as far as the graphics go of how that tournament was supposed to go, coming up this week, we've got Balor versus Atami and Neville. God bless it. Neville versus Corbin in the NXT Championship tournament. So whoever wins those 2 matches will face off at NXT Takeover, which is really cool. We're also going to get Emma. Emma's returning next week.
Yay!
Which is interesting. But this week on NXT, we saw some new tag team champions. Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy defeated the Lucha Dragons to become the new tag team champions. Are you surprised that they moved those guys into not only the title picture so quickly, but putting the titles on them so quickly?
Yeah, that definitely came out of left field for me. I like the team, but it's felt incredibly rushed to me. Like, I still have trouble telling them apart without looking at the names on their tights. And I assume they'll have a tag team name now that they're champions, but they've just been Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy for a while now.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, the Lucha Dragons were just Kalisto and Sin Cara up to the point where they faced the Ascension for the titles. But yeah, again, this just felt really rushed to me. I'm hopeful that they can hold their own and make this reign work. But yeah, I don't know. It's just how quickly this has moved just left me feeling a little bit uneasy.
Yeah, it's odd. Obviously it's not because of health reasons. Both Sin Cara and Kalisto worked really well this week. So, I'm secretly hoping it's because they're going to call up Kalisto to the main roster. Maybe the Lucha Dragons will help fill in the revamped tag team division on the main roster. I think that would be pretty cool to see them go up there. But that's really the only reason I can think of why to move the titles off of them. Unless you're going to build a feud between the two. But, even then, like, this is the first matchup that they've had together. So it is very odd. I'm not against it, but I'm just confused by it.
Yeah.
And like Sin Cara and Kalisto, like, I can get behind them. I can get behind Kalisto at least. But Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake, I feel like I don't even know them. I know they've been there for a while. They were a part of the tournament that Sin Cara and Kalisto won to earn the title shot against the Ascension. But overall, I don't know. I think like they've always been kind of like in the background. So yeah, for me, it was odd. I'm okay with the win. I'm curious of where it's going, but yeah, it is odd. Especially when there are teams on that roster that we do want to see be pushed into that spotlight, like Enzo and Big Cass. Like, where have they been?
Yeah, I couldn't say. I hope they don't continue just as valets for Carmella.
Carmella, yep.
Like, that was entertaining for a little while when she was first getting showcased on NXT, but the NXT tag division is actually needing some teams.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's move on from that. Another topic that I want to bring up is what's going on with Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey. Well, specifically Bull Dempsey. Like, he is getting the Mojo Rawley booking as of late.
Yeah, he got bitched out something fierce after that match.
Yeah, squash match. Like, no question about it. Squash match. Baron Corbin wins to advance in the tournament. Afterwards, Baron Corbin is backstage doing an interview, and Bull Dempsey comes in, talks some trash, and gets pie-faced. And then that's the end. And he's just standing there frustrated. Like, I don't know what that could possibly be leading to. If it's leading to him being angry, well, we've seen that. And we've seen nothing but that. Yeah, and we've seen that. We've seen him crush guys that aren't even on the roster, I don't think. Or, like those really low end roster members. But going up against Baron Corbin was like his task, and he's lost both matches. So I don't know. It's just, again, this seems like an odd booking if you want Bull Dempsey to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I assume he's going to cost Corbin the match against Neville. That's the only way I could see that match moving forward, because I highly doubt Baron Corbin is fighting for a title shot anytime soon. So
yeah, but
that was something I was afraid of when they booked Baron Corbin versus Bull Dempsey. So I don't know. I'm just not looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, I get you, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, I don't want to see Baron move on. But to have Bull Dempsey cost him the title shot feels like a really weak reason for them to continue their feud. Like, what more does Baron have to prove at this point? Beat him again in like 35, 45 seconds? Or, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like it either. And this is the reason why you rarely have two juggernauts going at it like this, unless they're going to trade wins back and forth. So, yeah, overall, I've been loving what NXT has been doing so far, but this has been a black mark on NXT pretty much since its inception.
Yeah. I think the last time they looked this bad is when they had Mojo Rawley on TV. Sorry, Joe. Yeah, so, okay, outside of that, I mean, again, we're going to be previewing NXT TakeOver in full next week. But we've got two other big matches on the card. We've got Charlotte versus Bayley versus Becky versus Sasha for the NXT Women's Championship, which should be a really awesome match. And that, so much is up in the air at this point. I have no idea how I'm going to predict this next week. Because I almost want to see every single one of them at this point hold the title.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Personally, I think Bayley's going to come out on top because she's got her serious business face on now.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Sasha Banks, though, I mean, she's done such good work that, she's all. The term deserving is like something that we don't try to just hand out, but totally she has earned that spot to hold the title. So
yeah, again, I would hope she's next in line.
Yeah. But we'll see. And then also, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, that got turned quickly into a title match. It wasn't supposed to be, but Kevin Owens didn't want the match unless it was for the title. Awesome contract signing segment, by the way. Probably the best contract signing segment I can remember as far as how they're telling that story. It's just perfect. So, yeah, but Zayn versus Owens is now for the title. It should be interesting to see how that unfolds. But again, we'll be previewing it next week in full. Let's update the Fans Talk TNA champion. That was originally Bobby Roode, but he lost it in his first match against Bobby Lashley. And Lashley has held the title every single week. This week it was no different. He defeated MVP Austin Aries and Bobby Roode to retain that title. And the Fans Talk WWE champion is still Sami Zayn because he has not defended it since we gave him the title. So, overall, yeah, that's where the Fans Talk WWE and the Fans Talk TNA championship sits. Let's jump into win fail.
Women wrestlers aren't getting paid? Why do you do a job?
Here is your win.
You do any job,
and fail
is to fucking get paid!
Of the week. Nick, what was your win of the week?
I've got co-wins from NXT. The first part of that is the contract signing, where Regal acknowledged how all contract signings in WWE devolve into anarchy, and he specifically made an effort to stop that.
Yeah.
And also how Owens violated the spirit of that order, but not the letter, by throwing the pen at Zayn. That was just a genius move, I think. And also the second win was when Balor was getting interviewed backstage about his upcoming match. And Itami comes in and drops the line, "I was the one that brought you into NXT, and I'll be the one to take you out."
Yeah.
His mastery of English isn't complete yet, but he is getting dramatic one-liners down to a science, and I love it.
Yeah. Definitely agree. Those two moments on NXT I thought were fantastic. For TNA, win goes to Rockstar Spud for me. Just seeing him wrestle and finally get into that groove and into that mode, I thought was great to see. So hoping for more. We got some wins from the live chat. ROH Top Prospect Tournament, TNA, NXT, and Lucha Underground this week. All good stuff. And also the Monsters Ball match from TNA. Again, yeah, some really good, cool stuff. Also, Tyson Kidd won a match. Lots of praise for Tyson Kidd. So totally agree there. Nick, what was your fail of the week?
My fail is just TNA put on an excellent show this week. The crowd, on the other hand, showed their ass for a fair portion of it, mostly during the Knockouts match, which is something I simply don't understand. You'd think that they would eventually learn that the Knockouts always prove them wrong when they immediately start shitting on them at the beginning of the match. And then it turns around to where they're cheering for the wrestlers and putting on better than Divas chants, which happened, but then they turned around and made a "We Want Puppies" chant. That, frankly, that's bullshit. I don't understand why that crowd just simply cannot learn better.
I'm with you. The TNA crowd this week was really weak, especially for the Knockouts. I despise the idea that they chanted "better than the Divas" for about 10 seconds during a really good women's wrestling match, and then follow that up not more than 20 seconds later with "We Want Puppies." Like, do you want quality wrestling matches from your women wrestlers, or do you want what WWE offers with their divas? I mean, like, make up your mind, guys.
I suppose we can be thankful that it's not an ROH crowd that throws quarters at the women, but
yeah, it was, at least it was topical. At least it seemed like they were paying attention to the match, which is something that doesn't happen very often as far as wrestling fans and women's wrestlers.
That's true. I think I would almost prefer indifference to this sort of reaction, but yeah.
Yeah, personally, outside of that, I really don't have a fail this week. I thought it was a pretty quality week. I like what WWE is doing as far as the stories they're telling, especially as we head into Fastlane. Like, Fastlane should have been like a filler pay-per-view, but, you know, there's quite a few title matches already added to it, some more rumored ones. It does feel like they're going in the right direction right now. And TNA the same way, like just how they built Lockdown and how nothing really feels filler. It just feels like everyone's running on all cylinders. Fails from the live chat. Fail is the TNA crowd. All of the talking on Raw. A full half hour of talking to start Raw. Fail. Raw long talking. That's what we get. Deuce actually calculated it out. He said there was 1 hour and 6 minutes of action, 2 hours and 7 minutes of talk and commercials on this week's Raw. And normally I would be with that statement, but I'm gonna let it slide because I think the story is being told. We're okay.
Yeah, it's cheap to count the commercials in too.
Yeah. Final thoughts. What do you got? Final thoughts before we head out.
Yeah, not much. Just, I enjoy Fans Talk Lucha. I imagine a lot of you do too. So go ahead and pledge, if you can, to our Patreon account. If you can't do that, show the link to people who can. Yeah.
And we're halfway there. Thanks to Diva Jill. Thanks to Nick Pattern and, Adam McLean. Also David Gilbert from the Talk TNA podcast. Very, very, appreciative of you guys stepping up. For me, my final thoughts, during the pre-show, Diva Jill shared a link in the live chat for a new movie that's coming out in March called Wrestle Madness. And, it looks awesome. The premise, it's basically like an Air Bud style story. It's made by the same people that make Air Bud, but it's this dog, who talks, of course, and he wants to be a pro wrestler. And so it's they're telling the story. So I think for sure I'm going to watch it. I would love to make that into an extra commentary MP3 that we can release to
Patreon,
everyone.
guys.
Yeah. I think that would be awesome to be able to not only like review it, but do a live commentary track on it. I think that'd be pretty sweet. So thank you, Diva Jill, for sharing that. We'll definitely be checking it out and watching it. And, yeah. Should be sweet. Oh, it also has Johnny Mundo on it. It has Johnny Mundo in it.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the hearts to Diva Jill this week, which is more hearts than you guys gave to us tonight in Mixler.
Oh, man. Also, I was going to spend a few minutes talking about ROH, but I'd rather wait until next week. Joe and I, as well as Kevin and, a few of our friends, we all went to the ROH show in Dearborn. It was for TV tapings. We had an interesting experience, I think, overall. Some mixed feelings about it, but we're going to talk a little bit about that next week. I want to hold that conversation until I can get Joe on, to discuss it with me. So look forward to that. Also, live chat. Normally what we do is we air the post-show conversation, because of how we set up Patreon. Everyone who was pledging $5 or more is going to get that exclusively in their Patreon feed. So if you'd like to hear that conversation, if you liked what we've done so far, or if you're listening on the podcast feed and you've seen FTW Fallout, that is a condensed version of our post-show conversation. If you want to keep getting that, go to fanstalkwrestling.com, click the support us link and pledge. It's easy as that. And that's the show. You can go check out ftwpodcast.com for more information about us and how to get involved in the future. And you can join us live each and every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on ftwlive.com. Myself, Nick, and everyone in the live chat, and of course our patrons, including Adam McLean, David Gilbert, Nick Pattern, and Diva Jill. Thank you so much for listening and joining in on the conversation. See you guys next Tuesday. Later. And that marks the end of our normal recording time. Everyone in the live chat, thank you so much for joining. The rest of this conversation, which who knows how long it's going to go, maybe another 15 to 20 minutes. Nick and I have got a few things to talk about, but if you want to continue listening to that conversation, it's not going to be available live anymore, but it will be available on FTW Fallout, which will be up on the Patreon feed for subscribers of $5 or more. So yeah, if you want to continue receiving this conversation, definitely get involved there. Also on Patreon, if you subscribe for at least $1 or more, you're going to get some stuff early. So this show, I do a large amount of the editing tonight, on Tuesday night, and then we release it Wednesday morning when I can get everything else done. But starting tonight, we're going to be releasing the full MP3 of this show and potentially Fans Talk TNA. I haven't decided if I'm going to release that tonight or if I'm going to release that tomorrow night. But yeah, Patreon, definitely subscribe and you'll get early access to all this stuff. Hey Garvin, did you see the picture of my new Glyos figure? I did not. Did you tweet that? Let me know, Diva Joe. I have not seen it. I do want to, though.
I don't know what that is.
All right. So, yeah, everyone that is listening now, you are listening because you are a Patreon subscriber. Thank you again for doing that. Oh, thanks, Diva Joe. Let me open this up right now. Ooh. That looks awesome.
That looks baller as hell.
Yeah, I dig that totally. This actually reminds me, Joe, I don't know if you guys know, but Joe and I, and Diva Joe, I'll see you on the other side. Joe and I and Nick, we all play D&D every once in a while. Like it's like once a week kind of thing. But recently Joe has been making like the individual figurines. So Nick, I think you got one, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he made one for your character. And then for Christmas, he also made one for my character, which was pretty cool. But right now he's in the process of painting it. So as soon as we get like that done, as far as the painting goes, we'll show pictures of that too. But I think it'll be pretty cool. I really like how